Hi there, my name is Shweta Rai. I'm a program manager in the Microsoft Identity division. Today, we'll talk about how you can empower your users with better IT scalability using Azure Active Directory. We'll look at 3 features in Azure AD that enable you to scale your IT operations: self-service password reset, group-based licensing, and self-service group management. Let's consider a fictitious mid-sized manufacturing company, Contoso, that wants to streamline their IT processes, reduce costs, and improve efficiency. The company is facing 3 major challenges. Contoso allows their end users to reset their forgotten passwords by calling help desk, who in turn verify the user's identity and reset their passwords for them. The problem now is that help desk receives a very large number of password reset requests per day, and they're not able to manage these requests in a timely manner. Contoso wants to allow users to reset their passwords themselves without compromising their security. Contoso's second challenge is related to license assignments. Contoso's IT department is looking to efficiently manage license assignments to a large number of users and keep them updated as these users move within the organization. The third challenge that Contoso is facing is related to assigning access to SaaS applications. We'll now look at how Azure AD can help Contoso overcome these challenges. Why do you even need self-service password reset? Traditional password reset processes result in high help desk costs, are time-consuming, provide little to no means of defining and enforcing security policies, and almost always require some manual configuration. Self-service password reset, or SSPR, in Azure Active Directory offers a simple means for IT administrators to empower their users to reset or unlock their own passwords or accounts without IT intervention. It works on any device from any location. All you need is a browser and internet connection. SSPR allows you to define security policies that are right for your organization and enforce them. You can also pilot this feature easily with a small group of users and gradually roll out the capabilities to your larger user base. The SSPR experience is built into the native Office 365 and Azure AD experiences, so end users will see minimal changes to their experience. Self-service password reset enables end users to reset their passwords themselves, effectively delegating these high-cost operations to end users. And lastly, SSPR allows you to manage your on-premises Active Directory passwords from the cloud. Deploying SSPR in your organization consists of the following steps. As an IT administrator, you will need to choose the authentication methods you'd like to make available to your users. Next, you need to get your users to register these methods. If your users exist in an on-premises directory, you'll need to configure password writeback to keep your on-premises Active Directory in sync with password changes in the cloud. You can optionally enable password resets from the Windows lock screen as well. The last step is to validate your deployment by testing SSPR as an end user. Let's double-click into each of these steps. As an administrator, you can choose the authentication methods that users will use to verify their identity. The available methods include push notification or one-time passcode with the Microsoft Authenticator app, voice calls, SMS or text messages, alternate email address, or security questions. We recommend that you require users to register at least 2 methods. The next step is to have your users register for these methods. As an admin, you can require users to register when they sign in. With this option, users will be prompted to register for password reset when they sign into any application via Azure Active Directory. They can dismiss the password registration portal, but they will be prompted to register each time they sign in until they complete their registration. End users can also navigate to their profile and register their authentication methods at any time. Password writeback is a feature enabled through Azure AD Connect that allows password changes in the cloud to be written back to an existing on-premises directory in real time. Password writeback is supported with all user sign-in methods, be it password hash sync, pass-through authentication, and federation. It allows for the enforcement of on-premises Active Directory password policies by checking new passwords against your Active Directory policy before committing it to that directory. This includes checking the history, complexity, age, password filters, and any other password restrictions that you may have defined in your local Active Directory. Password writeback is a synchronous operation with zero delay feedback. Users are notified immediately if their password could not be reset or changed for any reason. Password writeback uses an Azure Service Bus relay as an underlying communication channel, so all communication is outbound over port 443. For maximum security, password writeback uses a 4-tiered security model with a tenant-specific service bus relay, locked-down, cryptographically strong password encryption keys, the use of industry-standard transport layer security, and message expiration policies. If you want to enable password reset from the Windows login screen, you'll need to ensure that SSPR is enabled from the Azure portal and that users are registered for SSPR before using this feature. You'll also need to configure network proxy based on the type of devices in your organization. There are additional Windows 10 specific prerequisites to enable password reset from the login screen. The device must run at least Windows 10 version 1803, and it must be either Azure AD joined or hybrid Azure AD joined. Hybrid Azure AD joined machines must have line of sight to the domain controller to use the new password and update the cached credentials. Also, if you're using an image, clear the cache database for the built-in administrator prior to running sysprep. There are 2 methods to deploy configuration changes needed to enable password reset from the login screen: registry key and Intune. The Intune method is more flexible because it allows you to deploy configuration changes to a specific group of machines you define. Let's see SSPR in action now. Let's begin by browsing to the password reset blade. The first option here is the Properties section, where you can specify which users in your tenant can reset their password. I've chosen to allow all users in my tenant to reset their password. However, you could select the selected option and specify one group of users to pilot this with. The next blade here is the authentication methods. For the sake of simplicity of the demo, I've required only one method for users to reset their password, but we do recommend that you require 2 authentication methods to reset your password. The methods available to users in my tenant are mobile app code, email, mobile phone, and security questions. I do require users in my tenant to register for 5 security questions and answer 3 of those correctly to reset their passwords. The next blade here is where you could require users to register when they sign in. If you enable this option, users will be prompted to register for their authentication methods when they sign into the Azure AD tenant. You could also choose to have users reconfirm their authentication information periodically. The default option selected here is 180 days. You could also allow users to be notified when they reset their passwords, And you can optionally notify all admins when one admin in your tenant resets their password. This is a good security measure. In the customization blade, you have the option to customize the help desk link and specify either a help desk email or URL. For on-premises integration, you can choose to write your passwords back to your on-premises directory, as well as allow users to unlock their accounts without resetting their passwords. The audit logs blade will show you any password reset activity that has taken place in your tenant and will allow you to troubleshoot successful or failed password reset attempts. The Usage and Insights blade will show you additional information about users that have registered for authentication methods as well as used Azure AD self-service password reset. Let us now switch personas to an end user and reset their password as an end user. I will attempt to log in to myapps.microsoft.com as an end user. On this step, I have forgotten my password, so I will click the Forgot My Password link, which will take me to the screen where I have to complete a CAPTCHA challenge. Click Next, which will then prompt me to confirm if I've forgotten my password. I will select the option that I've forgotten my password and click Next. Now, I have previously registered for the Microsoft Authenticator app as my authentication method. So I will switch over to my mobile device, launch my Authenticator app, and plug in the one-time passcode for this user. I'm now prompted to enter my new password. I'm going to click Finish here. At this time, Azure AD checked my new password against any on-premises Active Directory password policies that I have configured, and since my new password matched those policies, it was reset for me. So now I can sign in using my new password by clicking this link here. I'm going to enter the username, type in the new password that I just set, and I'm signed in. Now that we've helped Contoso overcome their first challenge by enabling end users to reset or unlock their own passwords or accounts without IT intervention, let's focus on their next challenge, which is to manage large-scale license assignments and removals in an efficient manner. Azure AD includes group-based licensing, which allows you to assign one or more product licenses to a group of users. Azure AD ensures that the licenses are assigned to all members of the group, and licenses are added to new members that join the group and removed from users that leave the group. This eliminates the need for automating license management via PowerShell on a per-user basis. Licenses can be assigned to any security group in Azure AD, including groups synced from on-premises using Azure AD Connect, cloud-only security groups, and dynamic groups created in Azure AD. If your organization is not yet ready to start using a service included in a product, the administrator can disable one or more service plans in the product. For example, the administrator might assign Office 365 license to a department, but temporarily disable one of the included services. All Microsoft Cloud services that require user-level licensing are supported by group-based licensing. This includes all Office 365 products, Enterprise Mobility and Security, and Dynamics 365. If Azure AD fails to fully process group licenses for any reason, the license assignment errors are surfaced to the administrators so they can take the necessary corrective actions. Before a license can be assigned to a user, the administrator has to specify the usage location property on the user. This is required because some Microsoft services are not available in all locations. A user can be a member of multiple groups with license policies defined. A user can also have some licenses that were directly assigned outside of any groups. The resulting user state is a combination of all assigned products and service licenses. So if a user is assigned the same license from multiple sources, the license will only be consumed once. It is not possible to delete a group with an active license assigned. This prevents an administrator from accidentally deleting a group without realizing that users could lose their licenses as a result of it. When group license assignments fail, the errors are surfaced in the Overview section of the Licenses blade. Some common errors include not enough licenses, which can be corrected by purchasing more licenses for the product or freeing up unused ones from other users or groups. Some products and service plans may have dependencies on other service plans or products. If Azure AD attempts to remove the underlying service plan with dependencies, it will result in an error. If you use Exchange Online, some users in your tenant might be incorrectly configured with the same proxy address values. This will cause license assignment errors due to duplicate proxy addresses. Let us now look at the migration path for organizations that already have some automation with direct license assignments. The first step is to leave any existing automation as is. You will want to create a group for license assignments and assign appropriate licenses to this group. The next step is to add users to this group, verify license assignments by spot checking users and fixing any errors you find. The last step is to gradually remove any direct license assignments. Let us now see group-based licensing in action. Let's begin by browsing to the Licenses blade. The first section here is the Overview section, which will surface any license assignment errors if there were any. Let's navigate to All Products, which will list all of the licenses that are available for you to assign within your tenant. I'm going to select the Office 365 E3 licenses and click the Assign button. I'm going to go ahead and select a group that I created beforehand for license assignments called Contoso Office 365 E3 only. If you are not quite ready to use some of the included services, you would click Assignment Options and choose to turn off any of these services until you're ready to use them within your organization. I'm going to leave all of these services on for now. And I'll click the Assign button. The licenses have been successfully assigned to the group. I'm now going to navigate to the group by browsing to the Groups blade and selecting the group that I just assigned licenses to. I'm going to filter by the group name, select the group, and as you can see, the group currently does not have any members. I'm going to click the Add Members option and add some users to these groups. I'm going to select multiple users and click the Select button. As you can see, these users have been added to the group, and we were notified that they were successfully assigned these licenses. Let's verify that by navigating to the user and checking the licenses assigned for this user. The Office 365 E3 license does not appear yet. I click the Reprocess button and the Office 365 E3 license now shows up. It also shows that the license path is inherited, meaning that the user has this license because they belong to the Contoso Office 365 E3 only group. Now, if I navigate back to the group and remove this user from this group, the license that we just assigned will also be removed from that user. Let's go ahead and try that. I'm going to click Remove to remove this user from this group. I'm notified that the user was successfully removed. I will now browse back to the Users tab, locate the user that I just removed, browse to the Licenses blade, and click Reprocess. As you can see, the Office 365 E3 license was removed from the user because this user was deleted from the group. Now that we've addressed Contoso's challenges with license assignment by introducing group-based licensing, let us shift focus to Contoso's challenge with managing access to SaaS applications. Azure AD helps you give access to your organization's resources by providing access rights to a single user or to an entire Azure AD group. Using groups lets the resource owner assign a set of access permissions to all the members of the group instead of having to provide the rights one by one. The resource or directory owner can also give management rights for the member list to someone else, such as a department manager or help desk administrator, letting that person add or remove members as needed. This is delegated group management. A Contoso administrator that wants to delegate the management of access to a SaaS application can ask the business owner to create a new group. The administrator then assigns access for the application to the new group. From this point onwards, the business owner can add more users to the group who are then automatically provisioned to the application. The business owner doesn't need to wait for the administrator to manage access for users. If the administrator grants the same permission to a manager in a different business group, then that person can also manage access for their own group members. Neither the business owner nor the manager can view or manage each other's group memberships. The administrator, however, can see all users who have access to the application and block their access rights if needed. Azure AD allows the group owner to let users find their own groups to join instead of assigning them. The owner can also set up the group to automatically accept all users that request to join the group or require approval to do so. After a user requests to join a group, the request is forwarded to the group owner. If it's required, the owner can approve the request, and the user is notified of group membership. However, if you have multiple owners and one of them disapproves the user is notified but isn't added to the group. This is known as self-service group management. An example of this scenario is two users who both have SharePoint Online sites that they set up independently. They want to give each other's teams access to their sites. To accomplish this, they can create one group in Azure AD, and in SharePoint Online, each of them selects that group to provide access to their sites. When someone wants access, they request it from the Access panel, and after approval, they get access to both SharePoint Online sites automatically. We saw that you can enable users to create and manage their own security groups or Office 365 groups in Azure AD. The owner of the group can approve or deny membership requests and can delegate control of the group membership. Self-service group management features are not available for mail-enabled security groups or distribution lists. Also, when security groups are created in the Azure portal or using Azure AD PowerShell, only the group's owners can update membership. Security groups created in the Access panel and all Office 365 groups are available to join for all users, whether owner-approved or auto-approved. In the Access panel, you can change membership options when you create the group. You can make groups available for self-service by browsing to Group Settings and enabling the Self-Service Group Management property. You could also choose to allow users to create security groups or Office 365 groups. When these settings are enabled, all users in your directory are allowed to create new security groups and add members to these groups. These new groups would also show up in their Access panel for all other users. If the policy setting on the group allows it, other users can create requests to join these groups. When these settings are disabled, users can't create groups and can't change existing groups for which they are an owner. However, they can still manage the memberships of those groups and approve requests from other users to join these groups. You can make a group available for self-service by browsing Group Settings and enabling Self-Service Group Management property. You could also choose to allow users to create security groups or Office 365 groups. When these settings are enabled, all users in your directory are allowed to create new security groups and add members to these groups. These new groups would also show up in the Access panel for all other users. If the policy setting on the group allows it, other users can create requests to join these groups. When these settings are disabled, users can't create groups and can't change existing groups for which they are an owner. However, they can still manage the memberships of those groups and approve requests from other users to join those groups. You can also select users who can manage security groups and Office 365 groups to achieve more granular access control over self-service group management for your users. If you set users can create security groups in Azure portals to yes, you will not be able to restrict individual users from creating groups. You can designate groups of users whose members can use self-service group management. As an administrator, you should consider a consistent naming convention for groups in your organization. To enforce consistent naming conventions for Office 365 groups created or edited by your users, set up a group naming policy for your tenant in Azure Active Directory. For example, you could use the naming policy to communicate the function of a group, membership, geographic region, or who created the group. The naming policy is applied to creating or editing groups across workloads, for example, Outlook, Microsoft Teams, SharePoint, Exchange, or Planner. It is applied to both the group name and the group alias. If you set up your naming policy in Azure AD and you have an existing Exchange group naming policy, the Azure AD naming policy is enforced in your organization. You can enforce naming policy for groups in two different ways. The prefix-suffix naming policy allows you to define prefixes or suffixes that are then added automatically to enforce a naming convention on your groups. Prefixes and suffixes can contain special characters that are supported in group names and group aliases. The second approach is to use custom blocked words. You can upload a set of blocked words specific to your organization. When users are creating groups, they will not be allowed to use any words in the blocked list as group names. Another effective measure to manage groups in your organization is to use group expiration policy. Once you set a group to expire, owners of the group are notified to renew the group as the expiration nears. Any group that is not renewed is deleted. Any Office 365 group that is deleted can be restored within 30 days by the group owners or the administrator. Currently, only one expiration policy can be configured for Office 365 groups on a tenant. When a group expires, the group is deleted 1 day after the expiration date. An email notification is sent to the Office 365 group owners informing them about the expiration and the subsequent deletion of their Office 365 group. The group can be restored within 30 days of its deletion by selecting Restore Group or by using PowerShell commandlets. If the group you're restoring contains documents, SharePoint sites, and other persistent objects, it might take up to 24 hours to fully restore the group and its contents. Let's now look at some of these group settings in action. Let's begin by looking at group settings. I will navigate to the group blade and click the General Settings. On this blade here is where you would define if your group is available for self-service group management. You can also restrict access to groups in the Access panel if you choose to do so. You could also specify if users can create security groups or Office 365 groups, as well as designate who can assign members as group owners in the Azure portal for each type of group. You can also have directory-wide settings, which allows you to create an all-users group in your directory. It is enabled for this test tenant. The next blade here has settings related to group expiration. You could specify the group lifetime in number of days. By default, it is set to 180 days, but that value can be changed to a custom value if you choose to do so. You can also designate an email contact for groups that do not have any owners, as well as enable expiration for Office 365 groups from here. The naming policy blade allows you to upload a list of blocked words specific to your organization. Any words from the blocked words list will not be allowed in the group name or the group description when users are creating or editing groups in your tenant. You can also specify a group naming policy and create prefixes or suffixes that will be used when groups are created in your tenant. In my example here, I have specified a string for every group that is created in the tenant. I'm going to update this value and choose to save the naming policy. Let's now switch to an end user persona. As an end user, I have now logged into the myapps.microsoft.com portal. I will navigate to Groups, which will show me all of the groups that I own as the end user, as well as the groups that I belong to. Let's first try to create a new group. When I create a new group, I'm going to call it My Test Group. And I can choose to have this group either open to join for all users, require the group owner to approve the join request, or even designate that any owner of this group can add members to this group. Go ahead and create this group. I can also request to join other groups. I will click the Join Group option here and search for groups that I would like to join. So I can see here that the Contoso app assignment group is available for me to join. I'm going to click the group, click Show More Details to see more details about the group. It shows me the group type, the policy, which indicates that this group is open to join for all users. I'm going to click the Join Group link. And request to join the group. Since the group does not require approval, the end user was auto-approved and added to the group. As you can see, the member count as well as the member list was immediately updated. If I navigate back to Groups on My Apps portal, the new group I've just joined will be listed on the groups that I belong to. Now you've seen how we helped Contoso empower their users and scale their IT using Azure Active Directory. Thank you for joining us. We hope you learned something new. See you next time.